Joseph dreamed beneath the stars of promises that seemed so far, fields bowing low before his feet, a future only heaven could see. But dreams can stir a jealous fire, and hatred burned within his brothers. The ones who should have stood beside him became the ones who turned away. The code his father gave with love soon became a reason for betrayal. They threw him down into a pit, a dark and lonely place to sit. The sky above grew smaller still as silence settled on the hill. He cried for help, he called their names, but mercy never came that day. And strangers passed along the road, and Joseph's life was sold away. The dream seemed buried in the dust, along with every hope he knew. But God was working in the waiting. God was working in the pain. Every tear and every heartbreak was not happening in vain. When we cannot see the purpose, when the road is hard to understand, God is writing something greater with his unseen hand. Far from home in Egypt's land, Joseph served with faithful hands. In Potiphar's house he gained respect because God's favor rested there. But another trial was waiting, another storm he couldn't stop. False accusations filled the room, and innocence was locked away. Prison walls replaced the palace, his future hidden once again. The nights were long behind those bars, yet Joseph never lost his God. He served the men around him well, even when life wasn't fair. Years passed slowly through the darkness, while forgotten dreams remained. And still the Lord was shaping him for something greater than he knew. Sometimes heaven prepares us in places we'd never choose. God was working in the waiting. God was working in the pain. Every tear and every heartbreak was not happening in vain. When we cannot see the purpose, when the road is hard to understand, God is writing something greater with his unseen hand. And one day Pharaoh had a dream no one else could understand. The prison door swung open wide, and Joseph stood before the king. The wisdom God had placed inside him became the answer Egypt needed. And suddenly the prisoner became the ruler of the land. The pit was gone, the prison ended, and God's promise stood fulfilled. Years later, famine crossed the earth, and hungry people came for food. Among the faces stood his brothers, the very ones who sold him away. They bowed before him unaware, standing in the dream they once despised. grace had changed his heart. How many times have we been hurt? How many scars still remain? How many names do we remember because of the pain they caused? Joseph teaches us something greater. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, but it releases the future into God's hands. Because healing begins when mercy takes revenge's place. Tears filled Joseph's eyes that day as he finally spoke his name. His brothers trembled with regret, certain judgment would arrive. But Joseph answered with compassion, "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." Words that still echo through the years. The story wasn't about betrayal. The story was about redemption. God was working in the waiting. God was working in the pain. Every tear and every heartbreak was preparing something greater. What evil meant for harm, God turned into purpose. What darkness meant to destroy, God used to save many lives. So trust Him in the waiting, trust Him through the storm. The God who raised Joseph from the pit is still working today. The pit wasn't the end. The prison wasn't the end. The betrayal wasn't the end. Because God's plans are greater than what people do. And one day you'll see what evil meant for harm, God used for good.